first thing I'm going to do is share my screen. And this is something for the next couple of minutes I want everybody to work on. So under Brightspace, go to the quiz section. And in the quiz section, just go ahead and take this particular quiz. Now, what is going to be in here? It's fairly simple. And ignore these instructions up there because it's going to ask you for two things. What is your domain name? And it must be in this format, https:// and whatever your domain name is, like qc.cuny.edu. And then what is your GitHub URL? So mine, for example, is https:// github.com/qcprof. So, and I do need you to enter it with https. This way I'm able to just click and go to your site. So there are only two questions. That's what the quiz is. And even though you may have absolutely nothing there right now, that doesn't matter. You go there, there's nothing there. Because this is going to be used throughout the semester, including for the final exam. So I need to know two things. One, hold off all questions, please. One, what is your domain name? Okay, everybody should have a domain by now. We did this 2-3 weeks ago. Everybody got a domain name. And it doesn't have to be connected to anything. If I click on your domain, I don't see anything, that's fine. Tell me what your domain is. If you do not have one, you have not purchased one yet, you have till midnight tonight to go in and buy the domain and answer these questions. So you don't have to do it right now, but I'm going to give everybody about 10 minutes to do this. Enter your domain name and then enter the GitHub URL. Okay. Now, questions, let me know. If you've already done it, you won't be able to go in and do it. There's only one attempt allowed. But I know many of you were not able to do it. I do not want anyone sending it to me via email. It must be on Brightspace. If you emailed it to me, you still need to do it here. I deleted any email that I got where you were sending me this information. Has to be done on this one. So right now time is 6:40. I'm going to begin the lecture again at 6:50. I'm giving everybody about 10 minutes to go in and do this. If you've already done it, take a break for a few minutes and come back at 6:50. If you have a question, send it to me.
Professor, I do have a question.
I'm hearing somebody say something. I'm hearing impaired, which means you probably did not go through the sheet which told you I'm hearing impaired. I heard some noise. So somebody's trying to, you are not supposed to be using your microphone. Write out the question, send it to me, and then I will answer it. But do not speak question because I will not understand what you're saying. I heard noise, but I did not and will not fully understand what somebody is saying. Also, do not raise your hand. You, again, please make sure you go through the class policy document. I went through all of this before. You simply type the question in the chat box. Once I see it, I'll respond. Okay, so if you made some sort of a mistake, you need to email me saying you made a mistake. You do not get a second attempt. Email and all that, it's all posted on Brightspace. Even if you sent me an email before, ignore it. You have to send me another email if you made a mistake. Do that right now. If you made a mistake, tell me that you made a mistake. Other questions, let me know now. Again, you have about 7-8 minutes during class time, but you have till 11:59 p.m. tonight to do it. You don't have to do it right now, but I suggest you do it right now if you have not done it. I'm going to begin the lecture at 6:50. All right. So once you have done it, again, you have another couple of minutes. Then I want you to go into the note section. And you do not have any exam today, but I have something called exam one, information, and the material that we are going to be covering. So this is just information. You don't have an actual exam right now. Take a look at these two. We're going to be going through the material. And I'm going to emphasize, if you made a mistake, you need to email me and I'll respond to you via email. Do not send it to me anything through the chat that I did this, I did that, I sent you an email before. Any old emails I'm disregarding. So you need to send it to me today, now, if possible. And then, based on what the issue is, I'll give you a chance to update the information. Just about a minute or so, then I'm going to get started. And once you have done that, make sure you go to Brightspace, go to content, and this thing, content, and then to your notes. And you'll see two items. You should be able to see them. And then I'm going to go through this material with you. All right, we're going to get started now. So first, these are the preliminaries that you need for your next exam. So go under exam one, or just watch my screen in here where I'm telling you what you will end up doing. And again, this date is indicating that this is when we are discussing it. You do not have an exam today. what you will be doing is creating an HTML and CSS website project. I have not explained what CSS is yet, just HTML we did before, and I'm going to continue something comprehensive today. Next class, we'll discuss CSS. So the exam involves creating a basic website, pushing your code to GitHub, and deploying it live via Vercel. And once it's on Vercel, your domain name will be connected to Vercel, and then I'll be able to see your live website on Vercel, and I'll be able to see your code on GitHub. So this is how we'll be doing things throughout the semester. And the first exam is going to be just to make sure you understand everything, how the procedure works basically. So the details exam will be in class live 2.5 hours. So basically you're going to start 6:30 and we'll go up till about 9 or so. And you'll be building a basic website, and I'll tell you what it would be on the day of the exam. The way you're going to submit it to me is code would be pushed to GitHub and deployed via Vercel. And if you don't fully understand everything at this stage, that's okay. But this is why I'm giving you these instructions so you know exactly what will be expected of you. You need to make sure well in advance of the class, this is something we have already done, that Node is installed. You have installed Visual Studio Code. You have installed the live server extension. You have set up a GitHub account, and you have configured your GitHub to work with VS Code. You should already have a domain. You can buy a domain for $1 or $2 a year. Any domain name is fine. I don't care what it is. And then suggested providers, they're pretty much all the same. I want you to go around, check and see where you can get a good deal, and that's it. During checkout, they will try to upsell you, and I've already told you, decline all offers. Register for 1 year only. Make sure you disable auto renew so that your entire domain does not get renewed next year. This year you can get it for $1 or $2. Next year it will be at least 12 or 25 or $50. So unless you really want to keep it, you decide next year. But for now, make sure it does not automatically renew. You're required to have a couple of free accounts. First, you should have a free account on Vercel using your GitHub credentials. Also, you should have a free account on neon.tech using your GitHub credentials. We are not going to be using Neon right now. That's much later on, but might as well get an account. And it's same as neon.com. So on the first exam, you'll create a basic HTML and CSS website. Today, I'm only going to review HTML. If I have time, then I'll go to CSS. Otherwise, no. But for the first exam, you'll have both HTML and CSS. You'll push the code to GitHub and deploy it to Vercel. And that's pretty much it. It's just a review or reminder of things. So these are the instructions, and I will obviously give you more instructions on the day of the exam itself, but this is how you get yourself ready for it, the basic preparation for it. Next, give me 1 second. So I'm going to go back to content. And I have like a basic HTML review sheet for accounting students. We're going to go through that, and I'll explain things in there. So this is going to be a comprehensive review sheet, and it's going to be important for the first exam that you actually figure out how to do this stuff. It's fairly simple. Second exam and beyond, it really builds up on it, and you will get lost if you don't spend the time and go through this manually yourself. So first, any questions on the material I've covered so far? Exam one instructions, but they're just there for you to review at your own pace, and you should all be able to see it on Brightspace. So I'm going to close this out, and the HTML review sheet, you can click up and open it, and I'm going to open it on my end. So I am going to be going through, we had covered this material in the previous class. So I'm sort of reviewing some of this, and then I'll go on to new stuff. So very first thing is HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language, is not really a programming language. That's not what it is. It sounds like it might be. It's not a programming language. You use HTML to describe the structure and meaning of web content. But basically, it's a way to structure your content. So, whatever is in HTML, web browsers like Chrome and Edge, Firefox, etc., they're able to read it. So browsers are able to read HTML and render it into a document. So any website, any and all websites, whether it's Zoom, whether whatever, Queen's College, everything is created in HTML. And people use these terms interchangeably. I'm gonna be somewhat specific about it now. HTML tag, HTML element. An element is made up of both opening and closing tag. So tag is a portion. So for example, this is for paragraph. You have opening paragraph tag. Then you have a closing paragraph tag. These two things together make up an HTML element. They go together. So paragraph, you would have an opening tag and a closing tag. Or I can just say a paragraph element. A paragraph element is made up of both of these items. Element is paragraph. Tag is opening and closing. Some HTML tags are self-closing. In other words, these elements are self-closing. And I'm going to show you some examples of it, but these are a couple of examples of HTML elements that are self-closing. Some elements do not have a closing tag and or cannot contain content. And some of these are this example. And I'll go over this. These are the core concepts in just a minute. And I'm going to also talk about the document skeleton. We did this already. Every HTML page basically has HTML as the starting point and closing tag of HTML. Then it has two sections, a head section and a body section. So that's the very basic. So this thing that you see as document skeleton, every single HTML page is basically made up of this. So I'm going to now go to VS Code and bring this stuff up and explain these in a little bit more detail, including this thing about self-closing. So this is just something we had done in the previous class. And what I'm going to do is uh, create a brand new folder. And this was in the last class, so I will now go here. I'm going to create a brand new folder. So I have everything here organized under accounting 343. Last class where I lectured, we did intro to HTML. And now instead of giving an intro, I'll just call it September 29. That's the name of the folder I want to give it. So I'm basically going to create a new folder called September 29. And if you want to follow the same convention, you can do so. I expect you guys to be able to work within your own operating system, know how to create folders, directories, stuff like that. If you don't know how to do these things, you're in the wrong class. This is an advanced course. This is not a intro course to computers. So you should know how to work within your own operating system, whether you're using Mac or Windows, be able to create a folder and create files within it. So mine, I'm gonna go through this fast. I have September 29th. I selected that folder. So in VS Code, I have September 29th selected, today's date. Here I'm gonna create an HTML page. So to create an HTML page, we typically use for the home page index as the name, index.html. That's basically another way of saying homepage, quickly saying homepage. Now, to create a skeleton, you can use something which is called emit abbreviations. And what basically that means is that, and this is built into VS Code, that if I type just an exclamation mark, and you see over here it says emit abbreviation. So if I do exclamation mark and I just click on it, it creates a skeleton for me very quickly. So it starts off by saying that this is an HTML document using English as a language. It has a head section and a body section. And the head section, you are not going to do much with it. It has some things in there which you do not need to worry about, like character set UTF-8, ignore it. And meta viewport, this is just sort of to tell you that if you're on it will figure out if you're on a phone or a tablet or a desktop. That's what it means by viewport. Again, do not worry about these two lines, 4 and 5. Only thing you need to worry about is line 6. And in here, you do need to put some sort of a title. So I am going to call this, I'm basically doing this as a practice exam 1. So I'm going to call it mock exam 1. That's the title I gave it. And in the body section, I'm going to put a heading, not a head, but a heading of type H1. And within it, I'll just say, instead of mock, I'm going to call it practice exam 1 website. Now, to be able to actually see this, I can right click and find open with live server. This is an extension we installed before. So if you don't have this one installed, you need to go back and install this. This is from 2 weeks ago when we last had the class, 2-3 weeks ago. Open with live server. So I'm going to click on that. And it's showing my practice exam 1 website. And the title is up there, mock 1. Exam mock 1. That's the title. And this is the heading. Next thing that I'm going to do is make sure this shows up on GitHub. And we configured GitHub before. So to go to GitHub, you need to click on this one. And first thing is initialize your repository. Then you put something about what you did in here. So I'll just say created home page. And then you say commit. Then you have to publish it. So I'm going to click on publish. And it asked me, do I want it to be published privately or publicly? Because I want you guys to have access to it, I'm going to make it public. So now it's going to upload these files onto GitHub under QC Prof September 29th. So if I go to GitHub, and this is my GitHub account, all of you can go there and you can look at it. So if you go to github.com, QC Prof September 29th, and I'm going to send this to everyone as a link right now. So if you clicked on that, you are able to get to my GitHub account. And with that, you are able to look on GitHub and see what I just created. This is the code I typed in. And I do this routinely. Every time I teach, I will push my code to GitHub, and changes that I make, I will push to GitHub. So if you miss something, ideally you should record the lecture. But if you miss it, you can still go in here and copy my code and catch up. So I go back to my VS Code. This is my page that I'm working on. So I'm going to go from this thing for GitHub back to my index page. And I'm now going to create a paragraph. So to create a paragraph, I just type P and then I use my tab key and it just adds these. These are called emmet abbreviations. And to create a paragraph with just like nonsensical text, I can type in lorem and I want it to be 200 characters long. lorem 200. This is another Emmet abbreviation, and what this will do is quickly generate a paragraph with 200 characters. Garbage text, but it just generated it quickly for me. It's a placeholder. So since I have this, I can go back to my website, Practice Exam 1 website, and this is 200 characters. And this is what 100% would look like. So I just added a paragraph at random. Let me go back to my VS Code. As I did this paragraph, it's telling me, oh, you have made one change. And let me add another paragraph over here. So I'm going to do it paragraph. Then I hit tab, and then I'll type in lorem. Let's do 50 right now. Lorem 50, and then I'm going to do tab, and it will create a 50 character paragraph for me. So now I've got two separate paragraphs in here. This is where the first paragraph ended. And I can put spaces, but it doesn't really have any effect. I can put lots of spaces, and then I can add in front of lorem lots of spaces like this. But you will see all the white space is ignored when I go to my site. It did put one white space, but that's it. It decides on how much space is when it's displaying it. I don't have control over it as is right now. In other words, you don't do what I just did over here. It doesn't serve any purpose. You can, but doesn't serve any purpose. But in here, for readability, I will just make sure, I'll leave one space in between. But even if I did not, like let's say it was like this, if I look at my website, it will still put a space in there. So anything you do here, this is called white space. It's for your personal readability. That's it. That's why you're doing this. So I've done one paragraph, a second paragraph, and it's telling me I've got some changes in here. I'll go in there and added two paragraphs. So message is whatever to explain what you did. So I'm going to say added to para. And then I'm going to commit it and then synchronize changes. So once I synchronize the changes, then on my GitHub site right here, those changes will appear. They don't appear right now because I need to refresh it. So when I refresh it, you can see my first paragraph, and it's going on and on and on and on and on. And my second paragraph are now up there. So you can grab this code if you want. Not only can you grab the code, you can go back in history. So right here in history, it tells you what I did last, added two paragraphs, and I created my home page. Let's say you're not interested in this, you want to see what I did first. So you can look at the history and look at created home page, and it tells you what I did. That's the first step. If you want to go to my latest commit, again, you can come in here, history. I am not No, sorry, I'll have to go back to my home page. So I'm in this particular commit right now. I'm going to go back, or I can go to code. Okay. So now my latest one is added to paragraphs. If I click on that, I'll be able to see it. Now, if you have lots and lots of commits that you have made, you can go back and forth through history. So going back to my exam, between the first paragraph and the second paragraph, I want to add a self-closing tag. And one example of that is HR. HR stands for horizontal rule. So I can put a self-closing tag. Generally, it's a good idea to not just do HR, but whenever a tag is self-closing, you write it like this. And what that does, and again, HR is an example that I have in my notes. This one right here, HR. So this is the example I'm giving you. All of these are basically similar to HR, but HR is the example I'm using right now. So by putting an HR, notice there is no opening tag and no closing tag. This is what we call self-closing. And you use this in certain places, but HR just means draw a line. So if I look at my code, at my display, it's drawn a line for me. So I wanted a line drawn. I use what's called a self-closing element, like an HR. There are a whole bunch others, but this is an important one that I want you to just know, HR. And it inserts basically a line through. So at this point, I'm going to take questions. Any questions, send it to me now and I will answer. And I will be doing GitHub, another example, a little bit later on. Once I have made a commit, or gone through the process, I cannot just go and do it from start again. You do need to make sure that you get GitHub working. And what I typically do when I have a large class like this one is I'll do a lecture portion, then I set aside time at the end to work with students one-on-one. So if you are having issues with GitHub, you need to wait till the end of the class, and then I will work with you one-on-one. So once you have done the initial setup of GitHub, like I now just added the HR, and you don't have to do this continuously. Like I'm going to say, added HR between. You will do it when you have done significant and, work and you want to send the changes. But me, because I'm teaching between two paragraphs, I will just do commits a little bit more frequently. But that's not how you use it. And then I sync my changes. So I'm doing it much more frequently, like after every few steps, because I'm teaching. When you're working on your own projects, you are not going to be doing this continuously. You'll work on it. Once you're done, you will then commit to GitHub. Maybe do it once or twice or thrice. Anytime you've done some major work, that's when you commit to GitHub, not something small like I'm doing step by step. And since I just did my third commit, you can go in to GitHub, my account, obviously. And again, this is QC Prof. That's my GitHub account. And in here, I have a bunch of repositories. So I have a whole bunch of repositories. Most of them are private. You cannot see my stuff in there. But this one is public and this one is public. Most of the other stuff you'll see is private. That means you cannot go in and do anything. You won't be able to see it. So whenever I'm teaching, if it's for you guys, it will be public. Public. If it's for my own stuff, it will be private. Similarly, when you are uploading to GitHub, I want to be able to look inside your code. So I'm going to tell you in advance to make it public, unless I tell you to make it private. Even if I tell you private, I'm still able to go and look at it as long as you give me access. But in general, for right now, public means anyone can look at it. Private means nobody except me or anyone I have authorized can look at it. So I have something called teaching slides on my GitHub account, but you will not be able to find it. You should only see these two up there, because these are the two public ones. So if I go to my GitHub account in incognito mode and I said github.com-qcprof. Now it doesn't know who I am. I'm not logged in as me. This is what just you guys are able to see. So you're going to see something like this. You can come in here, look at my repositories. Repository is where I'm saving my stuff. And I did this 3 weeks ago. I did this 2 minutes ago. And you'll be able to come and look at this. Go in here. And then you can look at my history. What did I do when? Created a home page, then added 2 paragraphs, then added HR between 2 paragraphs. Questions? Send it to me now. So GitHub related questions, I've already told you. I will work with you at the end of the class. But other questions, let me know. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my notes. Again, you have access to all this stuff on Brightspace. So we talked about the difference between a tag and an element, what is a self-closing tag, and a basic document structure. Now, within the document structure, the big ones, and we've gone through this now, are HTML, opening and closing, head, body. Then within the body, you will typically divide it into a bunch of these, and my PDF is messed up, but I will explain these to you. The printout did not come aside correctly, and you don't need to worry about most of this stuff. But I'm going to explain it. And again, I'm just talking about some of the basic stuff here. Anything that's messed up, like here, these are formatting issues I had. Just ignore it for now. You do not need it. I will tell you what you need. This is why I did not bother fixing it, because we just don't need some of this stuff. So I'm going to start off here. Common structure and text elements. And in particular, you need to know what HTML is. This is the top level. Then a head section and a body section. In the head section, you will have things like title. Other things we have not yet learned, like what is the link, meta I showed you, but it's not important. Within the body, you have sections like header, main, and footer. So I'm going to explain these now. So within the body tag, you will typically have sections which consists of a header. And you will typically have a main section, and you will typically have a footer section. So when you create HTML pages, you will often create, and I'm going to now delete my stuff in here. I don't need this for now. I want you to understand this. Anything in the header section really uh, isn't anything special, but this is typically where you will put your menu. Menu will go here. The main stuff in your web page goes here. The main content goes here. And the footer is, I'll just put down things like footer section has things like copyright notice. Let's look at my web page. And if you look at this page, really, there's no special formatting. It all looks the same. So the purpose of a header, main, and footer section is not that it will display the thing differently. The purpose is, and I'm going to go to Gemini and ask it, why use semantic? This is called semantic HTML, like header, footer, main, etc. So this is called semantic HTML, and this is stuff you can just Google. So the examples include header, footer, main, and then you can have like an article or a section or an aside. They're there for a few reasons. Probably number one reason is accessibility. So if a screen reader is used, not somebody, not you looking at it, but a screen reader is used, um, it can navigate and it can figure out. So if somebody is blind and they're using your website, it's accessibility. It's for them to know this is the main section. This is an article within the main section. This is like a menu which is on the aside menu. So main article. So under main, you might have an article, which is your main stuff, the main thing you're talking about. But within that, you might have a smaller section where you're going off tangent a little bit. Still related. So this is at the broadest level, main. So header, main, footer, these would be at the broadest level. But then within main, you might have an article or a section or an aside may be part of header, aside, main, footer. So it's sort of up to you how you do things, but the main reason is accessibility. So screen readers are able to get to it. Second reason is search engine optimization, which is called SEO. That search engines are able to understand what your website looks like. These semantic tags help. It also helps the developer, so, whoever's creating the page, helping them maintain it. But really, number one reason is accessibility. That's why we are doing this thing. You don't have to do it, but it makes it a little bit easier. And here they're showing you some examples. So in the header section, you will maybe have a menu, which is navigation, maybe part of the header section. So uh, again, I'm going to do some examples and stuff like that, but that's what we're doing in here. So header, main, footer, and then there are other things like article, aside, but these are not too important. We're not going to spend time, but you do this for accessibility purposes. All right. It's 7:31. Let's take a 10-minute break. About 7:41, I will begin the class again and we'll continue. All right, so we're going to continue. And next, I'm going to talk about this thing called lists. And then we're going to talk about tables. And finally, I'm going to be talking about form input elements. So these are the main things that I'm going to be doing. I think I had the form inputs in here. Let me make sure. Yeah. So, and these form input elements. So these are the items that I'm going to be going through today. And then I'll have you practice stuff next on your own. So, so the next thing we're going to cover is this thing called lists. How do you create a list? So I'm going to go to my page and here I'm just saying my menu will go here. And typically, when you're doing your menu, which is in the header section, you will use nav. So I'm going to just use NAV. You see this right here, another abbreviation. Nav, and this is where I would actually be putting my menu. So I'm going to just, for right now, say menu goes here, menu placeholder. And again, I'm doing it part of my header section. I'm going to get rid of this right here. And typically what you want to do is keep it neatly formatted, like what I'm doing here, spacing. You can always right click and say format document. And that will format the document for you. So right now this one is set up that it has four tab spaces. Typically, I don't like it to have four and I want it to have two spaces. So how do I change that? You see right here, it's telling you spaces, select indentation, spaces. You can modify it there. But since I am not quite sure how I'm going to do that, I'm going to, again, Google it. So go into Gemini. I'm going to ask Gemini in VS Code, how do I indent two spaces only? So I don't want it to be indenting four spaces. I don't like that look. So I want it to indent two spaces only. I don't know how to do that. So I'm now going to go to Gemini free version and ask it for instructions. And it's going to give me a couple of different ways of doing it. And it's also telling me what is the recommended way. So global or user setting, this is the default for all files that don't override it. And so this is one way of doing it, global. Let's go down to the second one, workspace specific settings for that current project only. And you can go third way, status bar toggle. So that's the one I was showing you earlier. Like right here, you can go and toggle it and tell it, hey, make it two spaces, not four spaces. I don't like four spaces. I want two spaces. So that's one way. Second is for that particular project, for that specific project. And then this is if you want it for everything globally, all the time. This is what they are recommending. And so what they're saying is go to File, Menu, Preferences, Settings on Windows. If you're on Mac, go to Code Menu, Settings for Mac, or use keyboard shortcut. So I want to do this one. First one, I'm on Windows. So File, Preferences, Settings. So if I go in here, File, Preferences, and then I have to look for Settings. This comes up. Now, I'm going to go back to Gemini to see what do I do next. Then it says search for tab size. So I'm going to go in here and search for tab size. So tab size. And you see over here, it's set up as 4. I want it to be 2 everywhere. So I'm going to change it. Do I need to do anything else? Let me go and look in here. Change the value to 2. Find the settings editor, insert spaces. Insert spaces. Ensure that is checked. It should be by default. So this makes the tab key insert spaces instead of tab character. So it's telling me, make sure it's saying insert spaces. Now, to me, that part is not critical. Instead of using the tab, it will actually use spaces, and I need to find it. I'm not seeing it right now. Find editor, insert spaces. Okay, so in here, I'm gonna look text editor, and tab size is 2. Indent size, I'm not seeing actually insert spaces. It ought to be in here. I am not seeing it. All right, there. Insert spaces, and they're saying it's pre-checked, and that's fine. So once I have this set up, I can X out of it, and then it's still showing 4. I'm gonna see if I can format my document. It does not seem to have taken effect. Couple of things could be it did not get saved properly, or I may need to restart VS Code. So first thing I'm going to do is just restart VS Code. Maybe that will have an effect. I'll open this up, and it's still showing 4. Indent using spaces. I'm going to just, but over here it's saying convert file, detect indentation from convert. Again, I don't want to do any of these things, but I'm going to change view. And let me go back again. File, preferences, settings. It might not have saved when I was doing it. I'm going to look at tab size. So it is showing this. But it's telling me this setting is overridden based on the file contents. So when editor detect indentation is on, so I'm going to click on this. Controls whether the editor tab size or the editor insert space will be automatically detected. I'm going to just uncheck it. And it's saying edit in JSON. And let me just close out of it. I'm trying to format it. Okay, and now when I formatted it, it brought it back down to 2. So this, what I just did here, it's a matter of personal preference. I personally like to have only 2 indentations. You do not have to do any of this, but I want you to be aware, because again, some students have asked me these questions. Why is my formatting the way it is? Why is my background color different than yours? So in here, I have themes, and I'm using a dark theme. So you can go in and change some of these settings and uh, make it look the way you want. So this is the way I want. I like using a dark setting. I like to have 2 spaces, and you can just experiment with it. But this will not affect your code in any way whatsoever. When I started off, I mentioned to you, this white space does not matter. This is just for you if you are not too happy or you want it to look like mine. Well, this is what I've done. I've customized some of these settings. Anything you want to customize, go to one of these AI chat boxes, ask it, and it will guide you step by step as to how to change those settings. All right. So next thing, like I said, I'm continuing my um, navigation. I want it to be part of header. Now in my main, I'll have uh, I'm gonna just create some stuff in there. So within main, the typically anything which is your big main part of the content, you put it as an article. So that's the main content within main. Okay, so an article, uh, and this is all for screen readers. It has no effect on display. It does not. So I'm gonna within this create a to-do list. So I'm gonna give it maybe an H1, and I'll say to-do list. And now I'm creating basically a list. Whenever you create a list, you will tell it whether you want it to be an ordered list or an unordered list. I'm gonna start off with an ordered list. OL stands for ordered list, and then you add a list item. So the very first thing I want to do is, again, I'm making a to-do list for myself. So the very first thing that I want to do is do homework for financial accounting. My second task is going to be study for cost accounting quiz. Take out trash. All right, so I just created a list of 3 items. And notice I did not number them myself, 1, 2, 3. And if I go and look at my page, and I do need to make sure I, one, refresh it and make sure that my live server is running. So if I refresh it, I get this error message. Reason is my live server is not running anymore. Why is it not running? Because remember, I had closed out of mine and now I'm back into it again. So I need to make sure live server is running. So I'm going to click right here and open with live server. So now you can see my to-do list. I'm going to Let me do it one more time. My Zoom is interfering with, so right click, open with live server, and I got that. Now I'm gonna just zoom out of it. So this is my menu placeholder. I don't have anything other than saying footer section, to-do list, 1, 2, and 3. So it's an ordered list OL, so it gets numbered automatically. Sometimes you do not want an ordered list, and I want an unordered list. So I'm going to take the same thing, I'll copy it, but now I don't want it to be an ordered list. I want it to be an unordered list, UL. So opening and closing, UL. So everything, notice, remains the same. So I'll just call it to-do list 2. This is to-do list 1. And then if I view it, to-do list 1 is ordered, 1, 2, 3. To-do list 2 is unordered. If I want to create a nested to-do list, so to do homework for financial accounting and I wanted to nest something underneath it, I can do it here also, here also. So I'm going to have Gemini create something for me. Create an HTML list. And now I need to tell it what type of a list. So I'm going to tell it unordered. Create an HTML unordered list with 3 levels of nesting using an accounting example. Okay, so I'm gonna have now Gemini create the code for me. So I told it unordered list, 3 levels of nesting, not one level that you just saw earlier on. Now I wanted 3 levels of nesting. So I start off with unordered list, has a list item. Then I go to a second level of unordered list, have a list item, have a third level of unordered list, 3 levels of nesting. And I wanted an accounting example, and it's actually using, like, this will bold it. Strong means bold it for us. So I got some code generated. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go into my own code. Still part of this. I'll paste it in here just before this article ends. And it doesn't have to be, I could do it up here also, but I'm going to do it here. So when I pasted it, it messed up my formatting a little bit. Doesn't look that great. So anytime that happens, you should be able to right click and tell it to format the document for you so that it's a little bit easier to read. It's for humans only. So if I did that, I look at my page now. To-do list 1, to-do list 2. But now this is where it begins. Assets, liabilities, equity. Assets have things like current assets, non-current assets. And then, so this is level 1, level 2, level 3 nesting. So it's using a circle bullet, an empty circle, and a square. It's deciding all of this on its own. I'm not telling it how to do it. Even it put this, a little bit of this icon at the end. So now that I have this, I'll make sure I push it to GitHub. And before I do that, I'm going to just delete to-do list 2, this one. No, actually, let me leave it. Let me add an H1 here. Accounting example. And when I added it, I really should indent it properly. I haven't done that. So I'm going to just do format document. I let it indent it properly. Now maybe I'll put some space in here to separate these items out. It doesn't have to be done, but it just makes it a little bit better. So once I have this, let's go to this one. And I'll just say list example. I'm going to commit it and then sync the changes. Now, if you go to my site, you look under September 29th, and you should be able to see index. List example was the last one I just did. I just made that commit. And you can pull this example if you want. You have this access to it already. Any questions? Let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next one, which deals with tables. So tables, you can take a look at here. So I just went through lists, and tables are the next thing that I'm going through. So there's a very specific format for a table. You start off with table, and then for headings, you use table head and table, you break it up into 3 sections: table head, table body, table footer, just like we did with head, body, header, body, footer. So a table can be broken up into various components. So, and then each table cell is defined using TD. Each row is defined using TR. So I'm going to do all of this with you. I'm going to start off with a very basic table. Now, this thing can become a little bit of a mess. A lot of stuff in here. I don't want to lose it. Plus, I want to make sure that you know how to use GitHub. And so what I'm going to do now is September 29th, this project I'm not going to modify anymore. Instead, I'm going to go create a new folder. So it's September 29th, but I want to create just another folder. So I'm going to just say new folder. So I'll just call it September 29 and then I will just add part 2. And the reason I'm doing this is so you can see me using GitHub. So as soon as you create something new, this shows up on the right side. You can close out of it. Pilot. So in here, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it also index.html. I'm going to quickly generate a skeleton for my website, and I'm going to be calling it, this one will be tables example. I'll just call it tables. So under body, now I'm not going to bother doing a header or a footer. I'm just going to go ahead and create a table. To create a table, you just say table. And at a minimum, very basic level, you can create what's called a table row. Inside each row, you can have a cell, which is table data. And I'm just going to put 1 in here. Another table data, I'll put 2 in here. Another table data, and I'll put 3 in there. Now I want to go to the next row, second row. So I'm going to put table row, and within that, I'll do table data and put 4. Another table data, and I'll do 5. Another table data, and I'll do 6. I'm going to right click and open it up with live server. So I created a table 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So row 1 has 1, 2, and 3. Row 2 has 4, 5, and 6. So I just create a very basic table. 2 rows, 3 columns. So TD stands for table data, which is like saying each cell. So it's row, but instead of saying table column TC, we use TD, table data. Data goes in there. And I'm going to send this basic example to GitHub. So I'm going to click here, initialize repository, then add some comment. Created table. I'm going to hit commit, publish, and I don't want to publish it to private. Make sure it's public. It's going to publish it. It will ask me, do you want to open that page? I'm going to just say yes. So now part 2 is up there. And you can go in here and grab this example. And this is a very simple table example. Now I'm going to do something slightly more complicated. So let's go to Gemini again. Create a table example. Let me make it. Create an HTML table example in an accounting context, using 3 three columns and 4 rows, and in here create a comprehensive table example. It should use table heading, body, and footer. This is like a more complex example that I'm asking Gemini to create for me. So it's now creating like a full page, and it's putting right now styling in there, which I have not yet taught you. So I'm going to say return HTML only, no styling. Because I don't like that example. So this is what I wanted it to do. And it's generated something for me, a table. So the first example that I did for you was a very simple table, minimum. This is a much better, more comprehensive example. Again, I'm going to make sure everything is formatted, and we are going to take a look at it. So let me just refresh it. Now, it created table heading, made it like bold, etc. Date, account, cash, description, amount. It created a table. But because I had told it not to worry about styling and stuff like that, it does not look all that great. If I had kept the styling, not this one, but the previous one that it did, I'm going to add that right here next. So first notice this is tables, okay, because I gave it the title of tables. I'm going to just refresh it, and you can just see a little bit. This is up there, a little bit nicer in terms of the formatting and stuff like that. I don't see too much of a difference, but a little bit nicer. It added some styling to this as well. And it did it automatically because of this styling. When we were doing styling in here, it ended up styling these as well. It's not great styling, but it's a little bit better than what we had before. And we have not discussed styling yet. And I want to emphasize that styling is separate. Styling means how it looks, colors, and how it appears on the page. That's separate from content. And right now, we're just concerned about content. I'm not worried about making it look good, but this is an example of making it look slightly better. Now, I'm going to go to my code. I do not want any styling in there. So I'm going to just do Control Z. And it takes me back to my previous example. And I undid the changes. So when I now look at my table, if it's refreshed, changes should have been undone. No, not all of them were undone. So let me just go back and see if I can undo more changes. Save it. And just deleting stuff out that I did not want in there. I'm going to format it. Let me look at it here. Yep. So this is basically what I wanted you to know at this particular point in time, that, how we are just setting up a basic table without styling. So that was my example up there. And then table with a head and a body section and a footer section. But without formatting, it doesn't look all that great. So just be aware, I'm gonna commit changes. Added a comprehensive table without styling. I'm gonna commit it and sync changes. So we have done tables now. Now this portion is form input elements. So where you can fill some data out in a form. Now form and input elements is something that will be in the next stage of your HTML learning and stuff like that. So I'm going to leave this alone for right now, but we will be coming back to this after the next after you've learned basically a little bit more, then we're going to come back and use this. Same thing with images, how you use that. So all of this, I think. So I've covered basically the basics of what you need. So going back to your exam example. Under exam 1, I'm just going to bring that back up again. It wants me to be probably logged in or whatever. Okay, so this portion of HTML, which is knowing how to create a very basic website with a skeleton and be able to put some things in there. And this is an example of what I mean. Create a basic table or create a list, create a paragraph, put a heading. And with the headings, at the top level, I'm gonna just add some H1, H2, H3 to show you. So when you have top level heading, and then I'm gonna use H2 as an example. Second level heading. Then I'll use H3 as an example. Third level heading. So, and it can go all the way down to H6. I'll use H6 last. Sixth level heading. So you have H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. You will really never, or probably should never use H4, H5, or H6. But right now, just to teach the concept, I'm going to show this to you. So in the tables, top level heading, second level heading, third level heading, sixth level heading. So when you're creating a document, this will be main title, whatever you want at the highest level. second, third, fourth. So you can do stuff like this just by changing H1, H2, H3 values. So you should know how to put a heading. You should know how to use a paragraph. We've done that. So I'm going to just do one right here. To create a paragraph, you just do paragraph. And then your content goes here. And now I'm going to just add a lorem 35. 35 characters long, small paragraph. So top level heading, your content goes here, and a small paragraph. And I could continue doing something like that. So your first exam, my expectations are, and I'm going to go to this thing called Accounting 343 Notes, and which you have available. So the title is just Accounting 343 Notes. Now, here I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to put today's date, September 29, and then I'm going to just add a style. Let me actually go to this one, this style next. Okay. So what do I expect you to know for your exam one? And I'm now only going to talk about HTML. I expect you to know the HTML skeleton. What is that? Okay. You should know head, body, putting the HTML, how you create it. I expect you to know headings, H1, H2, etc. I expect you to be able to create paragraphs. I expect you to be able to create lists. And I expect you to be able to create tables. So, and also I'm telling you, review September 29 instructions on Brightspace. So I've already told you, you need to have Node installed, you have to have GitHub, you have to have VS Code, blah, 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 all of those things. But actual HTML, this is what I'm looking for. And this is about HTML. We haven't done CSS yet. That's the next thing. So exam one, and I'm gonna HTML. This is what you need to know. You should make sure you review instructions on how you set up everything. And then exam one, we're going to talk about CSS, which stands for Cascading Style Sheets. This is used, the cascading style sheets, to make something look good. This by itself will not make things look good. So you use this thing called cascading style sheets to make it look good. So I'm going to go to now part 3. So again, we are on September 29th. I'm going to, you know, headings added, heading example. I'm going to commit it, sync the changes. And I'm gonna create a brand new folder. So I'm still under September 29th. And now instead of calling it part 3, I'm going to just call it CSS because I'm introducing the cascading style sheet concept. And in here, I'm going to say select folder. I'm going to create index.html. And I'm going to have Gemini create a web page for me. Create a very basic accounting web page without any CSS. Use only heading, paragraph, list, and tables. So I'm asking it to create an accounting web page without any CSS using only these items. So let's see what it gives me. And again, it gave me something about accounting. It's a web page that it gave me. Okay. So I'm going to just copy this and go in here and just paste this. So I've just created a very basic web page. I'm going to open it up with live server. So first thing I'm looking at, the title is some sort of like a basic accounting concepts. So accounting is the language of business. So because I had told it not to use any styling or CSS or whatever, it's now emphasizing it using asterisk. And we can go in and modify these things to make it look better ourselves. And, just create a very basic page for me. I'm gonna a table, another table, and a list, two types of lists, okay? Numbered, ordered list, unordered list. So just by giving it some very basic instructions, I generated a page without having to do too much work myself. Now that this page is generated, I want to style it, make it look good. So I'm going to discuss that with you. So in here, I'm going to first initialize repository. Then I'll just call it init initial commit from Gemini. So Gemini has done this for me. I'm going to publish it to a public branch. And you've seen me do this over and over again now. And then I'll open it up on GitHub. It did not find it. I need to just give it maybe another minute and then it will find it. So at this point, I got too much stuff open. So I just want to close these. Even Gemini, I'm going to close for right now. Tables. So I've got my basic thing open. And if you want to follow along, you can copy from here. I'm gonna, I really, yeah, I'll leave this up there for now. Okay, so I'm gonna go into my VS Code and just start from the top. Accounting is the language of business. So I want that language of business to be styled a little bit better than what it is. So different ways you can do it. This is still, right now, this is still HTML. I can use words like strong. This is HTML, not CSS yet. Accounting is the language of business. So language of business is what I want emphasized. Strong. Strong typically will mean make it bold. Typically. Let me open it up using live server. Accounting is the language of business. Strong will typically mean bold. And I'm using the word typically because when you say strong, your browser decides how it's going to make it strong. You don't decide. Your browser is deciding it. So I'm using Chrome, and really Chrome and Edge, most of them will convert it into bold. But don't assume it will be bold. Similarly, I can use, I'm going to emphasize this accounting equation. So I'm going to go in here, and this thing, accounting equation, I can say, add some emphasis to it. Now, if again you don't know something, you can always use something like ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. And this time I'm going to use ChatGPT to do it. And I'm going to say, how to emphasize HTML text. Again, I don't know how to do it, but I'm going to find out. So it's saying there are certain ways that you want to do it. Semantic is the preferred way of doing it. And I just showed you an example of strong. But if I wanted it to be an emphasis, which is usually, not always, usually italicized, usually bold, I can use this thing called EM. So if I wanted to modify this right here, I could type in EM. That stands for emphasis. It doesn't say how you do it. It's up to the browser to decide. And I put the opening and closing tag. And then if I go and look at it, emphasis is typically italic. So you will typically use this thing called semantic. This is the right way of doing it, best way of doing it. Sometimes you want to specify bold. Sometimes you want to specify, make it italic. Sometimes you want to specify underline. And you can do those things also. If you want it to be underlined, you use U. You can use I or B. And these are some examples that I have here. As such, italics. So And there are other ways of doing it, but as you are working on your website, I suggest using AI, whether you use ChatGPT, and I think the version 4 legacy models. If you use 4.0, uh, it's really quite good. You can do pretty much all you want, and you will not run into a usage limit. With ChatGPT 5, they usually will limit you how much you're going to be able to use. So another option, again, like I said, that you have to be able to create your website, create your web page. So this and this are still strong and emphasis. This is not yet CSS. We're going to get into CSS in like the next few minutes. So I want to take this document and apply CSS to it. So I'm going to copy all of this, and again, it's up to me what I want to use, but I will use one of these AI tools, and I'm going to go to chat. Let's go to DeepSeek now. Chat.deepseek.com. So another AI tool that is out there. So I'm gonna say use inline styling to make this page look, I'll just say good for now. And I'm gonna paste my code in there. So right now, you know what it looks like. I'm gonna send it. And I did not give it much of instructions right now. Okay. Inline means something which you will learn to make this page look good. Okay. So just this level of instructions, and it will create a page for me. It's not ready yet. That's why the download is not fully visible. If I go down, you see it's still generating it. And DeepSeek is, from styling point of view, my personal favorite. So you are not allowed to use DeepSeek on college computers, etc. That's I'm using it on my personal computer. This is Chinese, and New York State passed basically a law saying that we are not allowed to use it on college computers. But for your personal use, this is good for styling. But I gave it all the instructions, basic instructions, and it's still working on it. Okay, so I'm let it finish. Okay, so and now it's basically going over what it did. It's telling me what changes it made all the way through, and saying this page has a clean, professional appearance. Why is it professional? Because it looked at accounting and said, okay, what would make sense for accounting? It decided all of these things on its own. And all I'm going to do is grab, I could download it, but I'm going to just copy the code. I'm going to come to mine and delete everything that I have and paste the code. One of the things you want to be very careful of is sometimes these models will not give you your entire code back. So just sort of double check uh, to make sure. And I'm going to do that right now. Use my live server, open it up, and see what it looks like. So it did the styling on its own. Remember, I had made it bold, and this is DeepSeek decided to make it red. I did not tell it what to do. Accounting equation. Here it left it in as emphasis, but made it, I don't know, slightly different color. Assets, liabilities, equity. It's deciding on the color and presentation. I did not do anything other than just tell it, make it look good. But all the styling that you see, this is all styling. Okay. It's happening automatically. Now, this is our ordered list. It's giving it colors on its own. So going back in here, I had told it to use something called inline styling. So, you will be using AI throughout the course, but you need to know how to intelligently instruct it to do something. So here it went in, it did all of these things. I'm going to first commit it. CSS applied using AI. Even though I don't understand any of this stuff, at least I'm looking at it, it makes, it's working. Now, next step would be to be a little bit more specific about the instructions. So I can tell it, use a dark background, use orange as primary color, and gold as secondary color. So again, now I want very specific styling. I don't want it to just style, but I want it to use orange and maybe gold. It may not look good, but I'm going to let it decide. And I'm saying dark theme. My current site, it's a white background. I don't want white background. I want black, dark, some dark color. So it's now working on enhancing it. Again, it's going to take time. This is one of the problems with DeepSeek. It is somewhat slow compared to ChatGPT and or Gemini. But again, it's fairly good in terms of styling. It actually does a better job of styling than the other ones. I just have to wait a few minutes, let it do what it's doing, and let me make sure. In here, I'm gonna delete all of this out. And I'm gonna wait for DeepSeek to finish. And it's done that. So now once it's done it, I'm gonna copy it and paste it. And let's go in here and view it. I may have to refresh the page. Yep. So now I told it I wanted orange and gold as primary and secondary colors. I did not say anything other than make it dark background and orange and gold. So it's deciding on the shade itself, and they're fairly close. It's making sure, this is DeepSeek, is making sure that the shade of orange and yellow, they go well together. And I'm going to just commit this as well. Dark theme with orange and gold. So it's fairly easy for you to customize it and do pretty much whatever you want. So again, I have just sent these changes. Now, at this point, I'm going to look at my site, and I'm dealing with CSS. I'm going to just go in there. This is the dark theme. I'm going to go into history. So this was my initial using Gemini. Then CSS applied using AI. Then I changed it to gold and whatever. Now I really want to go back to this one. So what I'm going to do is click on this. I can see what was in here. This was the initial commit. And there are various ways of doing things, but I just want this one to be copied. This is the one I want to work with right now. So I copied it. Remember, this is 358 lines. I'm going to delete all of this out and paste. Oops, I did not copy it correctly. Okay, so this should be the file, and I want to copy all of it. So I'm going to just click here, copy raw file. And then I'm going to click on paste. So instead of like 300 something, I'm back down to 122. If I look at my site now, I'm back to very basic. And this is what I want. Because while we can use AI, I want you to have some very basic idea of how you style things. So I'm back to pure HTML now. Typically, the way you will style something is by creating a second file. So I'm going to do that right here. So first let me commit it back to original without CSS. And I'm going to just commit that. Now, in here, in addition to having an index.html file, I'm going to create a new file. I can call it whatever I want, but typically you will use things like style.css. That's a very common name to use, but the important thing is it says .css. And what you do is in the head section right here, either before or after the title, you can link these two files together. And I'm going to ask, let me go to Gemini. How to link external style sheet, that's what it's called, CSS, to an HTML file. So I'm asking it, how do you do it? And it will guide me. So it's saying, go into the head section. Standard syntax is in the head section, and the order does not matter. You use this thing. This is the command, link. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go. And like I said, it doesn't matter the order, but I'm going to put it like that. Now, this is just a command to link these two files together. But notice, it's calling it styles, and I call mine style. And that can end up creating a problem. You have to make sure that you're consistent. So easiest thing is in here, I'm going to change this to style.css. So this name matches this name. So by doing this, if I look at my site, well, nothing has changed. Because even though I have linked this style sheet, I have not done anything in here. It's empty. So in here, I'm going to specify what I want to happen to the body. So I want the body to be, I'll give it a background color. And I want my background color to be, I'm going to go back. Let's make it yellow. And then you have to put a semicolon at the end. So that's all I'm going to do right now, nothing else. Now, if I go and I look at my page, I've got a background color of yellow. So this is an example of how body means the entire section that I had here. I want everything to be yellow. Maybe I wanted only H1 to be a different color. So under styles, I can go in and I can say for H1, not the background color, but now the color. I want it to be red. So now wherever I have H1, it will be red. Do I have more than one H1? No, just one. What about H2? Let's make those blue. So I'm going to go into my style sheet and say H2 should be color blue. So all H2s now should appear in blue. H1, H2. Everywhere we used H2. I want my tables to have a different background color. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to focus on table. And I'm going to say background color. Let's make it, I'll just use aqua. So if I now look at my tables, they have a blue background, aqua color. Obviously, I'm doing a pretty bad job of coming up with good colors. And this is why I use AI all the time to generate styles. I don't do it myself, but to teach you, for you to learn how what AI is actually doing. And again, I'm selecting pretty bad shades that don't go well together, and that's okay. But AI would be able to do a much better job as far as the actual colors are concerned. But this is very, very basic how you go about styling. Now, I don't want all tables. Notice I have two tables. This is one balance sheet accounts, and then I have another table which is about accounting terms. So I want to focus in and I want to be able to do something just over here. Table 1. So in here, we can use something which is called class. This is something new. This is part of HTML. I'll say class is equal to, and I make up my own name. Uh, let's make it, I can call it whatever I want. I'll just call it banana. For no reason, okay? I can just call it whatever I want. I'll just call it banana. I'm saying table, class is banana. Now, if I go in here in styles and I have to define my style, now when you use class, you use a period in front of it, and I say banana. And within this, I can say background color is green. Let's make it green yellow. So in my table, I wanted it to be aqua, but I've also created a class called banana and I gave it a background color of green yellow. I gave it a background color of green yellow. So this is a table, but because I created something called a class, and class is nothing more than saying I want to give it a custom property, custom name, something I just come up with. Did I have to call it banana? Of course not. I just use that to uh, just have something to say. So something else might make more sense over here, and this might be something like balance sheet accounts. And now I'll just make it green and not green yellow. So it may make more sense to call it balance sheet accounts. And I'm gonna go and see what happens now. My balance sheet accounts are back to blue. So what did I do wrong? It's not green. This is what it should be. What I did wrong is over here, I called it balance sheet account, but in index, what am I calling it? I'm still calling it banana. So let me go back and fix it. And it needs to match exactly. Like if you don't remember, go back and look it up. It is balance sheet dash account. Has to match exactly. I called it accounts, not account. What did I call it here? Singular. What did I call it here? Plural. So you got to make sure you're not making mistakes like this. Now I'm going to go look, and now it is actually green because I wanted this to be in green. So I've given you some basic idea. We're not done yet. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on CSS in the next class. I'm going to end the class right now. I will speak with students that have questions, and next week we will continue with this. So I'm going to commit this. Um, Updated CSS. So it will be available. And next class, I should be able to finish CSS. And then after that, I will be scheduling your first exam. So those who need help, stay behind and message me now about needing help. You know, like what do you need help with? And then I'll work with you and I'll guide you. And don't just say, I need help. Be specific about what you need help with. Is it with GitHub? Is it something else? And even if you send me a message earlier, send me one now. So I make sure that I'm able to help you. So, Samantha, I have your message. Wait. And again, anyone else that needs help, let me know right now. If you don't have questions, that's it. The class is over. Exam is after next class. I will tell you when. And Monica, just wait. Once I know how many students I've got, then I will continue and I'll go over. But everybody else should disconnect. And I'm going to be away from my computer for just 1 minute. And then I'll come back and I'll help the students that need help.